This is up at gcnlive.com. It's important to get this article out to everyone. Dictator of failed state lectures Americans about freedom. Dear Mr. Calderon, get the hell out of the U.S. That is the subheadline I had Watson write by Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones. We wrote this together this morning. Americans were once again forced to endure the dictator of a failed state which represses and subjugates its citizens as a matter of course, lecturing the U.S. about how his people were being discriminated against yesterday when unelected Mexican President Felipe Calderon bashed the Arizona illegal immigration law. Calderon commented, such laws as an Arizona law is forcing our people to face discrimination during a White House meeting. Calderon later attacked the Second Amendment in a speech to the U.S. Congress. Get out of our internal affairs. Quit using a political weapon against us. This is treason. This is sedition. This is an invasion. This is a foreign leader trying to invoke sedition in our country. Blaming Mexico's spiraling drug violence on guns being smuggled from inside America, though the studies show over 90% are being bought by the Army and then sold, while failing to mention the fact that the lax border security, something he vehemently supports, but only on American borders, is the primary cause of the problem. And he says Calderon's use of the term our people is a slap in the face of every American and every Hispanic American who has immigrated legally. Since when did the leader of a foreign nation address his own constituency from within an entirely different country? If the millions of illegal aliens living in America see themselves as Mexicans, then why do they insist on staying in the U.S. illegally? Well, because they say this is Mexico. Well, but if the Mexican system's so good, why don't you stay in Mexico then? Now, expanding on that, we played a video clip earlier, and I don't know if Watson has this in the article, where Obama said, we've gone past our borders. We're one country. I mean, that is treason. Going back to Charlie Veitch of the Love Police, they're doing the same thing in England, bringing in masses of foreigners who are just human beings too, but then playing them off against the rest of the people in the country as a political weapon and as a tool of balkanization. What's your view on that?
Absolutely, Alex. I'm happy you brought that up because in many of my films, many of the commenters noticed how the most aggressive physically people are the non-native British. And as you say, they're human beings as well. But these are people from Rwanda or from Sudan or from Serbia, Bosnia, who've been through a war zone. And now they've been given a police community support officer with police powers uniform. And they are violent. I've never had a native gentleman Englishman, policeman hit me. But I have had security thugs from Eastern Europe and from Africa, you know, God bless them, but they let me just interrupt again. I had a member of Parliament on a few months ago, and he admitted that over half of the CPS workers kidnapping kids are foreigners as well who can't even speak English. So we know what this is. Bring in foreigners, give them uniforms, make them the military and the police, and they'll do whatever they're told. Absolutely, Alex. And one thing I think is very important for me to say, because a lot of my friends are saying, oh, Alex Jones is a fearmonger. Alex, you're not a fearmonger. You give the information truthfully. You work on fact, and it's in the eye of the perceiver whether they are scared of it or not. We are in a battle right now. We are at the brink, and self-defense is very different from offense. I just wanted to say that.
Well, it is scary to say there's a world government that plans to implode economies by design by selling fraudulent derivatives to governments and then loaning the governments more fiat money. It is scary they're putting poison in the water. It is scary they launched 2 illegal wars and are about to go into Iran. It is scary that they're setting up this police state and bringing in foreigners to rule over us. It is scary that tens of trillions have been stolen and the whole world is on the verge of financial collapse. I mean, again, that's a childlike mind that thinks that I'm saying something, so that creates the fear. If I live in a valley and a huge dam breaks and the alarms go off saying, get out, you've got 5 minutes, 30 feet of fast-moving water is coming, it will kill you, am I a fearmonger if I get on the radio of a dam broke and told people get to high ground?
No, you're not. And were those people in the Warsaw Jewish uprising, were they fearmongers for telling the other Jewish people that the Nazis were coming to kill them? Were they fearmongers for rising up against the Nazis in the last bid attempt to save their lives and their friends' lives? No, they're not. They were just looking at the truth and acting as a decent, you know, as a kind of conscious human being should. And that versus
all the other footage we've seen of Jewish families and others They'd separate the kids and send them off to be killed, and they'd run the women into pits naked, the men into pits, and shoot them. And the next group, seeing them being herded in to be shot, would still run right in like gentlemen to be killed. That's not going to happen with me. I'm not running into any pit. I mean, at the moment of watching people's heads being, and I saw footage from Nigeria about 2 months ago. In fact, Burmis has it. Well, you asked me to bring us that footage. And they're bringing people in the middle of the town square, having them lay down, and then shooting them. And these guys could have run. They could have fought. I mean, I'm an extremist that I'm saying I'm not going into a pit to be shot.
No, David. Sorry, Alex. Yes, I'm actually, I spoke to a lady who ran to be a member of parliament, and she told me that I am on a domestic extremist list. So I need to have a few days notice if there is going to be a roundup, because they would round me up, of course. And just like you, I would also do everything I could right now, because in Britain we do not have big trains taking people away to camps. So right now the best way I can see us fighting this is just to raise awareness and raise the consciousness, raise the humanity in people.
No, they just slowly arrest people and then you get processed into the jail. That's how this works now.
Yeah, it's very scary when we realize we are living in those crazy films that we never thought would come true. But this is reality now. This is actually happening. And I wish people could see this. And I wish people would stop projecting their own fears onto us, saying that we are fearmongers for talking about this. All we're doing is saying this isn't how it should be.
They're on the news in England and the U.S. saying they want to be able to arrest us and there be no record of where we went and that we can even be tortured. Now, that's bona fide oppression. That's bona fide evil to the max, and they're trying to sell it as if it's acceptable. We must speak out against it. And the good news is the people are starting to listen. But I interrupted you. Go back to this point, because I've been questioned in England. If you even talk to anybody on the street, that is criminal, because you're all prisoners. Steve Watson's, who lives in London, it's happened to him going to a concert with his girlfriend. They do this to everybody now, and describe foreigners in uniform hitting you.
Yeah, I know. It's outrageous.
You have footage of this.
Yeah, I'm just going through my mind all the different times when police have arrested me under a public order offense for talking about the connection between big business and war, for talking about how only countries with oil seem to get invaded. And the police lie. They tell so many lies. They say, oh, a member of the public is now offended, so now we need to arrest you because you've offended someone. It's a hate crime. You know, there's Muslims here on the street, and you're talking about a future war with Iran. We need to arrest you. This could be a race hate crime, and it's just ridiculous. It is George Orwell's 1984.
Well, they arrested Robin Page 7 years ago, BBC reporter, because he used the word homosexual in a speech. They said that word is hateful. I mean, this is real.
I know. It blows my mind, Alex, but all we need to do is just keep doing what's right with zero compromise. And when you do what's right, the universe will help you. And for me, what is right is defending freedom. It's defending that human spirit, which will not bow down. And I will not bow down before any other man, because I'm a sentient, free human being. So they can bring all they want, but it's not going to work with me. And my job is just to make sure other people realize that they are free in their minds. It's just the physical world which is the challenge. And they need to make sure they're free in the physical world as well.
Well, I mean, look at how 5,000 years ago kings wore crowns, just newer versions of headdresses to say, I'm better than you, I'm the authority. Same thing with cops, big hats with big glistening signets on them and logos and big giant monolithic government buildings to send the message, we're the big government, you're little. They send that message by design to separate the government from the people, but specifically, and I've seen the videos of this, I've seen it in New York with We Are Change. The cops that can barely speak English from all over the world, Chinese, Russian, you name it, Polish, Mexican, they literally can't speak English when they walk over and go, turn your camera off, I take you to jail, listen to me. And the government knowingly is hiring foreigners to do this. That's a big political issue in the U.S. and England. We need to start pointing this out. They're bringing the foreigners in to be our rulers.
Yeah, and they've done this throughout history. You know, in the Chinese, when the Tiananmen Square thing, you know, China's a country of like 200 different ethnicities. And what they did to Beijing, they brought in farmer troops from the rural areas who had no problem shooting people who weren't like them. And, you know, in Britain right now as well, you know, got all these people from different countries. They don't feel that same maybe bond with British people. So, yeah, they'll follow their orders. And, you know, as someone said, I can't remember who, you can always pay half the poor to kill the other half. And it's the sad state of affairs. And that's why we need to stay very vigilant. And as you say, Alex, just keep shining a light on this, keep showing people. But sometimes I despair because I can show people, like even the people closest to me, a lot of my work, and they go, and so what? Who cares? Like, it's not really happening because they've been, you know, dumbed down by Hollywood. And they think almost that the paramilitary black uniforms are cool because it's in a Beyonce video. Rihanna has got them dancing on stage with her. It's incredible when you go down the rabbit hole and you see how it's all connected. You start connecting the dots.
And you show them government documents where they're putting cancer viruses in the vaccines and they giggle. And then 5 years later, they're dying of cancer. It's still funny. Because it's a mind trick. It's Crime Stop from Orwell, where they decide it isn't a threat to them, and so they're part of the power structure.